Hey everybody, welcome to day 44 of the 60-day novel writing challenge, where we are going to be talking about a couple of secrets about the words was and were. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button below, go ahead and click it now, and whatever it is you're drinking today, grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. Alright, so today we're going to talk about the words was and were, and I have one grammar rule that I want to share with you that you might actually not know, and a writing tip that I also want to share as well. And I want to stress that the main goal right now is still to get our words down on the paper, so I don't want you guys to be spending tons of time making sure that you get every sentence just right. But at the same time, the more that you practice using things like these in your writing while you're writing, the better you will get at just incorporating them naturally. And eventually it should be that you don't have to go edit all of these out of your book every time you write a book. Eventually it should be that they are just incorporated naturally, you use them correctly, and you use the words in the strongest way possible without even thinking about it. So the first thing I want to address is a grammar rule about the words was and were. And I know you probably think you already know how to use these correctly, but don't skip this part because this may actually surprise you. So was and were, really simply put, we use them in singular and plural situations. And as native English speakers, most of us do this without thinking at all. So if it's a singular use, we use the word was. So like I was going to the store, or she was getting her hair done. And if it's plural, then we use the word were. So they were going to the store, or the kids were getting their hair done. Those sound pretty easy and come to us pretty naturally. But I have a challenge for you guys. Pick the correct sentence from the following two. Would you say, I wish he wasn't at the party? Or would you say, I wish he weren't at the party? Or would you say, this would be so much better if she wasn't here? Or would you say, this would be so much better if she weren't here? That one's a little bit trickier, isn't it? So the rule on this is actually something you would probably never think of, and I would not recommend going around in your day-to-day life and correcting other people who are using these incorrectly, because this is a rule that is seldomly known, but because we're writers, I'm gonna share it with you, and also because it's cool and crafty. The difference is if you are saying it in a hypothetical sense or in a realistic sense. And bear with me for a second. When I learned this rule, I had to read it like 8 times in a row to grasp it and wrap my mind around this. So if we say, I wish she weren't at the party, we want to use the word weren't if it's hypothetical, or wasn't if it's true. So if we're saying, I wish he weren't at the party, we're saying it because he is at the party and we wish he weren't. Hypothetically, we just wish that it weren't that way, but it is. But if he really wasn't at the party, then we would say, I was so glad he wasn't at the party. So if we wanted to say, this would be better if she were here, we would use were because she's not here and we wish that she were. So even though it sounds correct in our head to say, I wish she was here, it actually is were if it's hypothetical. So in the sentence that she would look better if she were a blonde, even though it sounds right to say she would look better if she was a blonde, it's were because it's hypothetical, because she is not a blonde, and we're talking about, oh, what if she were? Kind of crazy, isn't it? Grammar can be so fun. And the second secret, which really isn't that big of a secret, is gonna sound a lot like the day when we talked about there was and there were. This is gonna be a little bit less steadfast though, because I said in that video that anytime you have there was or there were, you can take it out and make it stronger. This one is a little bit more flexible because I'm not entirely banning the words was and were from your vocabulary. We do definitely need to use them at some times, but there are a lot of times when those words actually really weaken your sentences by replacing what could have been an active verb. This is not true all of the time, but in a lot of cases, it would be stronger with a more active verb in your sentence. The words was and were can often be strong indicators that you are telling instead of showing. So let me give you a couple examples of what I mean. So if I say the sentence, I was afraid, that is a perfectly grammatically correct sentence. There's nothing wrong with it in that sense, but it's telling. I'm telling you that I was afraid. Whereas if I used a more active verb than was, I would say something more like fear caused my heart to pound wildly. So instead of saying we were late to the movie premiere, say we hung our heads in shame as we shuffled past the rows of people who'd arrived in their seats on time. Instead of saying that was a great performance, say you performed so beautifully that I wept. Instead of was as the verb in the sentence, performed becomes the verb in the sentence. And it changes immediately from telling to showing. So again, I don't want you guys to spend all of your writing time today searching for these issues in your past manuscript, but as you're moving forward, practice using these strong verbs instead of was and instead of were when it's applicable. The words was and were are sometimes still very valid, so this does not apply in every single case, but I do see this a lot with new newer writers that they'll use the words was and were instead of finding that stronger verb to describe what they're going for. But of course, right now it is the word count that matters. So yesterday we should have been at a total of 21,671. I wrote 2,721 words yesterday, go me, which puts me at a total of 24,127, so I am still tracking ahead. All right, so today's goal is going to be to write 23,338 words, so I'm gonna jump off and write mine. If you haven't hit that subscribe button below, go ahead and click it now, and I will see you guys tomorrow for day 45 of the 60-day novel writing challenge.